What's going on, everyone? This is Eric B. Horn, and welcome to another episode of the Eric B. Horn Pro Dev Experience. Today's topic is your current career right for you? Once again, is your current career right for you? In the midst of COVID, millions of people have lost their jobs. And as time goes on, those millions of people have lost their job. They are becoming more eager and eager to get back to work. But in the midst of people losing their job, one question that I've challenged a lot of people to ask, were you currently happy with what you were doing in your career? Now, I know most people just say it's a job, you have bills to pay, but in the midst of just sitting down and just waiting for things to boil over with this overall pandemic, ask yourself, were you happy with what you're doing? And strangely enough, most people weren't honest with themselves when I initially asked them this question, or they used the excuse they were happy with what they were doing because they were getting paid. But after peeling back some layers and asking some hard hitting questions that surpass just the money, a good 75 to 80% of people who were laid off that I am coaching, they weren't happy with what they were doing. So one of the things that I suggest for them to start mapping out, but not necessarily moving forward with, is thinking about changing careers, changing industries, leave what you have been doing in the past and picking up something new so you can start going down the path of being happy when it comes to your overall job. However, before I challenge them with this overall initiative, there's a couple of things that I ran with them that I'm going to put out to you guys just so it's something that you can think about. Now, to be open and honest, when it comes to changing careers, there is a huge challenge. And one of the biggest challenges is you will always take a longer time trying to find a new job while you're changing careers as opposed to trying to find the same type of job that you've been used to based off of your experience and things of that nature. However, when it comes to changing careers, it's an overall challenge because the individuals that currently hate what they're doing in their job or their career, do they want to continue to go down that overall path, especially when they have this time to do some overall reflection during this overall pandemic? Specifically for me, I went through this process when I changed from the industry of IT to career services. And one of the things that I had to do was to find some sort of parallel. And while doing that, I did a lot of research. For example, even though IT and career management or workforce development are two totally different industries, I tried to find a parallel. For example, the next career I can be an IT recruiter or an IT trainer or maybe even an IT coach where I can balance both worlds as opposed to just jumping out of one lake and diving into another. However, a lot of people may not have that option or they may not think that they don't have that option. So the best thing to do is do your research so you can try to find some sort of parallel to marry the old industry and the new industry, and that can be a logical first step when it comes to changing careers. So you don't necessarily have to dive into something cold turkey. The second thing that I want to touch base on when it comes to changing careers is analyzing the financial impact. Now, the best case scenario is when you change industries, you change careers, there's an increase in your overall income. However, like in my situation, when I went from IT to career services, there was an overall decrease. And one of the things that I didn't do was take the necessary time out to one, figure out what that financial hit would be beforehand, and two, ramp up ways where I can learn how to supplement that overall income. Now, what I initially did was I had my business, but most people aren't entrepreneurs. They're not thinking about starting a business or they feel like they can't start a business. And that's your business if you think you can't start a business. I'll start another podcast episode dealing with that. However, if you analyze and crunch the numbers and you do that by figuring out what you currently was working and the income that you were bringing in and what that new salary may possibly look like. And if there is a gap, some of the ways that you can figure out to supplement that gap would be to get a part-time job. I've seen some individuals change industries and take a huge financial hit, but they had a part-time job in place to help mitigate that overall risk. So they didn't feel like they were 120% behind the eight ball, or they figured out what a side hustle would be to possibly supplement that income. Side hustles is the new buzzword, even though side hustles have been along since the beginning of time. There's always something that you can do that's outside your current job or the current thing that you can do to possibly bring you some additional income. Usually, what I tell people, um, your side hustle should be what you're passionate about, or what you have an extreme interest in, and figure out how you can take that, learn that, and bring that to the overall marketplace. I have a good buddy, Jessica Williams. She's an expert when it comes to side hustles, and she's proven, you can have a side hustle over and over and over again to help supplement your overall income. The opportunities are out there for side hustles. You just have to be creative enough to actually move forward with it. But I highly recommend to do the financial crunches, even if it's just going on websites like Glassdoor or Monster or Career Builder, just to say, okay, this is what I was making. This is what I can possibly make in this new industry. If there is a gap, what can I do to help fill that gap? It's really simple. If you guys want to, I can do another podcast episode to actually do a more granular breakdown about that. But it's just figuring out where the gap is and help filling that gap if you want to go down the road of having or starting a new career. And the last piece would be to excuse me, I always have trouble saying that word, your current skills versus the skills that you need for this new opportunity. One of the first things that you should do when it comes to analyzing your skill sets, write down what your transferable skills are. And for individuals who do not know what transferable skills are, to put it in layman terms, what are the skills that you picked up through the course of your experience that you can segue or that you can use in another job or another opportunity? A simple example of a transferable skills is your communication skills. Regardless if you are in IT, career services, finance, customer service, whatever you're doing, having the ability to communicate well is very key. And something that's even more key than that is how you can take something that's very technical, like specifically what I did in IT, and break it down to a non-technical person. A lot of people don't have that skill set when it comes to working in IT or whatever their main profession is. But if you have that type of transferable skills, you can segue how you communicate in any industry. But the key thing is to write down a list of the things that you can take from your old opportunities and your old experience and apply that to a new opportunity. The next piece would be, what skills will you need for this new industry? When it came to career services, you have to be very analytical. There's other certifications and there are other certificates that you can achieve to help push you forward and give you the knowledge that you need to dive into career services or workforce development. But what you need to do is figure out what those skill sets are. And the ways you can do that is look at a simple job description. Most job descriptions have the skills that you need to be successful or at least meet the bar for the new opportunity that you are trying to dig into. So go on any job website, look at an ideal position. That will be a good next step for you transitioning into that new industry, and write down and analyze the job description and specifically the skills, the certifications that you can possibly need to be successful in that overall job. Also, go to websites like glassdoor.com. Glassdoor is a lifesaver, and it has been a lifesaver for me specifically while I'm on this new journey of finding my next opportunity. But even more importantly, when I was in a position of changing careers, it gave me a lot of insight that I thought I did know, but I didn't know about when it came to not only entering into the new industry, but how to be successful. Because for me specifically, I just didn't want to get into the industry. I wanted to be, and I still want to be, the very best. So, what are the skills and the traits and things that I need to be successful? And then, last but not least, is where can you get these skills? Now that you've done your research on what skills that you need to be successful in the new job and the new industry. Now you need to figure out where you're going to get these skills. And one of the best kept secrets is workforce development. Long story short, workforce development, their job is to help you find your next job. It's a mixture of career services. It's a mixture of recruiting, HR. It's all of that balled up into one. But the main thing is these are resources that help give you the everything that you need from resume writing, interview skills, things of that nature to help you find your next opportunity. When it comes to workforce development, there's a specific initiative that President Obama put into place in 2008, and that's called WIOA. And it's an acronym for the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, WIOA, WIOA. You can just go on Google and type in WIOA. And this is a law that President Obama put into place to give job seekers who've been displaced or laid off. Hint, hint, everyone is looking at this video who has been laid off due to COVID. You would be classified as someone that's being displaced at this given moment, but give them the necessary tools, whether it's training and things of that nature, to help you get your will help you put you in a position for your next career move. Now, there is an overall process when it comes to being qualified for WIOA, but after you pass that qualification process, you can be allocated up to $8,000 for additional training. And that training can be used to give you the skills that you need to get into the new industry. I really can't go into grave detail about WIOA in this particular podcast, but if you guys want me to dig a little bit deeper in that, feel free to leave me a comment or shoot me an email or a DM, and I'll be more than happy to create that episode for you. However, WIOA is a huge resource that is mandated by the Department of Labor that most people do not know about. And there are WIOA or workforce development offices, multiple offices throughout the United States. If this is international, I don't think this applies to you. However, if you are listening or watching this podcast and you live in the United States and you've lost your job due to COVID, you definitely want to exercise WIOA. So long story short, when it comes to changing careers, the first thing is just to wrap up, it will be a challenge from going from old to new. It will be a challenge, but it's not impossible, right? Hopefully, if you're listening to this podcast, you understand the concept of stepping up to a challenge as opposed to shying away from it. But if it was easy, everybody would do it, or everybody would be employed and thriving in their overall career, which they are not. Number two, when it comes to changing careers, find a parallel with the old skills and the old experience you have and see there's a way that you can segue that into your new industry. There's always some sort of parallel, which would be a good first step for you to move in the right direction. Third thing, learn and understand the financial impact. Know your overall numbers. Like I said previously, if this is a situation where the industry that you're changing from gives you a bump in your overall pay, that's great. But in most situations like mine, you're going to take a hit. So know what that hit is and figure out options that you can take to help supplement their overall income. And last but not least, know your skills. Know the skills that you currently have, and know the skills that you need to move in the right direction. As always, I hope this podcast episode served you well. If you had any other questions, comments, concerns based off of anything that I've said in this podcast, feel free to email me at info@ericbhorn.com. That's info@ericbhorn.com. And for the people in the back, info@ericbhorn.com. Thank you again, guys, for your time, effort, and energy. And I'll see you on the next podcast.